She talks about the peninsula, but she never mentions Ireland. She never mentions Britain in here. She wanted to keep it open, and immigration and such topics as that. You know where they're coming from, but they meet up with other immigrants along the way. Now I've just mentioned two like scenarios and events and that take place in the book Land. The characters Liam and Ed and I call her Edna. You know how you get used to a character's name when you read along in a book that's foreign to you. Her name is Enda, 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 but I just call her Edna. And if you stay to the end of this video, I'll be talking about the Famine Museum. Yes, that's what they call it in County Roscommon, the Famine Museum. Some Irish people don't like even referring to it as the Great Famine or anything. It's the Great Hunger. I've learned that by listening to Maggie O'Farrell interviews, a couple of them. I'll link below to some things. And then about, the Great Hunger in general is part of this novel. And I've been to Newgrange in County Meath. That's a tomb, a passage tomb they call it. 3000 BC, predates King Tut's tomb by 500 years. And they discovered it in 1963. But one funny thing about it is you can see another one in the distance, another mound. They haven't excavated it yet in all these years. But Irish, we have time. What's the hurry? Let me get back to talking about this novel, Land, that I've been enamored with for at least a month. So I'm not going to do like a deep dive into this like Ulysses or something, although I could. Use land as a symbol of an element like earth, air, fire, water. Land is earth. And I'll tell you about how it opens and talk about the characters, and I'll mention some things, but I'm always hesitant and worried about leaving spoilers. But so Land is about a family. It opens with a father and son, and there's two other characters I'll talk about, as I already did, Edna and Rose. I'll tell you about that. I've been enamored with the book. We started it. It was buddy read with Pat, book chat with Pat, and I've also talked about the book with Angelia at Read and Reread. So that was a pleasure, and I find myself wanting to talk about it more. So if anybody has read this, you want to chat about it in the comments, feel free. Up with Tomas and his son Liam, who's 10 years old, and we get the year, it's 1865. So it's right at the I guess the famine, the Great Hunger, started to ebb around 1850. Kind of coincides with the Civil War. It's a good way I've always remembered it, basically. They're out surveying these, the remains of the land, and what remains is brutal, not much. And she gets into that and so she doesn't mention England or Britain, but man alive, did they F over the Irish. And there's receipts to prove it. Stay tuned. I'll get into that wee bit. Surveying the land, and she gets into the details about the mechanics of that, which is interesting. You've seen surveyors on the street, I'm sure, that look through those, poles, and they're like little telescopes, right? Well, Liam's kid has to hold it while Tomas is doing that stuff, and it's in brutal weather. You get the family idea, and Tomas is really into it. What he's doing is, he's working for the British. He's working for the Redcoats, another company. It's like we never find out who it is, but you know who it is. Betrayal eats at him, and that's part of the storyline. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there because we're breaching a spoiler. This is all very early on. So Liam gets an opportunity. Liam is a 10-year-old son to go into the Jesuits, which they think about, and it's a big deal. Now Edna wants to go too, but she can't. They flat out deny her because she's a girl. She's female, and she takes umbrage at that big time, and does something physical to herself as a rebellion. And ultimately, Liam goes on to the Jesuits and studies there, and she steals money from the family and hops on a boat, a coffin ship, to Canada, and you have that storyline, which is great and all that. Great and all that. It's horrific and all of that. But the storyline is she reaches Canada and, things happen. There's also a son named Eugene. How can I forget? Eugene has a disability in that he's nonverbal. Main character, you're gonna love Eugene. Liam, consequently, is by choice. He leaves the Jesuits. And unceremoniously. This novel will tear your heart out. Many moments in it. Few dogs in it that are heart-wrenching scenes. You know how dogs can be. I almost forgot. There's magical realism in it. There's time changes, but there's one time change that's spoiler worthy. The ending is a surprise. It's not a shock ending, but it's a cathartic. The whole book was cathartic for me, very much. I've read a handful of Irish novels, not necessarily this year, last year I read at least half a dozen. So this one, though, stands out, as I just did a mid-year freakout tag in June. This is a great way to start, the second part of the year. So I highly recommend it. Highly. I'll be giving it as a gift to some non-bookish people too, and I've recommended it to. I have a few friends in Ireland, and a couple that are readers. One album's going to check it out in Dublin, so then my other friend in Belfast might. Then I recommended it to a friend of mine in St. Louis, who's not on BookTube, but just a general reader. I think my father would like this. He reads mysteries and crime fiction, and I think he'd like this. He's been to Ireland though, so anyone who's Irish would like it. Which do you want to start with? There might be some more spoilers if it's for those who stayed this long. We can start with the Famine Museum, Great Hunger, talk about that. Or we can go to Newgrange in County Meath, that memorial tomb, passage tomb. Let's start with the Famine Museum. That's in Stockstown Park. There's a house and gardens, but it's in Roscommon County, Ireland, towards the middle of the country. I have this brochure to remind me of it. There's an interactive museum, and that was cool. And immediately, it's on the first, I think, page of the brochure too. I caught shite from my friends, fellow students there, because my last name is Mahan. Here, that's how you spell it. And the plantation owner, the land owner of, like, this is back 1700s, is Mahan with an O, Mahan, whatever, but close enough. And I caught stuff for that for a while, because these plantations were very plush, very posh. As you can see, the English lived well, and the English would hire the Irish, the peasants, to work for them in the kitchens and that. Now that was all underneath, and they had pulleys to raise up, because there's no mingling between the upper class, English, and the peasants. They made them. You couldn't get a job if you spoke Irish. If you didn't speak English, just forget it, number one. So you need to speak English to get a job there. Just horrific. And there's no question England considered Ireland brushaways. They wanted to remove all the Irish, because they were like, they called them monkeys. So there's that, and then the museum itself with the, it has a pistol that they ended up killing this Mahan guy, and the pistol that did it, and and it's all interactive. It's modern museum. You learn about the potato blight, which there was, but I mean, Ireland grew enough food to feed its own, but England exported it. And then there's, about the fishing. Ireland is surrounded by fish. What happened to all the fish? England took it. And it's enough to carry a grudge for, 800 years. Okay, don't get me started about Sinn Féin and that started later with Jerry Adams, Let's go to Newgrange in County Meath. They discovered it in 1963, like I mentioned. It's surrounded by about a dozen things like Stonehenge, only not as big. They're flat with spirals on them. You've seen those interconnected, like maybe 3 of them, spirals. Now that is due to either one, wild, spasmodic dancing, just wild dancing, or number 2, mushrooms. True. But I was with a friend, and he happened to have some local hashish that he got, and he mixed with tobacco, and we rolled it up and smoked it right outside. Now there's an opening about the size of a brick, little bigger, like that rectangle. And on December 21st, the winter solstice, the sun hits the place and it illuminates the inside. So they're thinking that the passage of burial might have cremated some kings and that in there. Let me just read from that first paragraph, or second paragraph, because I mentioned it being 3000 or from 3000 BC. When stone and not metal was the everyday material for tools and weapons before metal. So the tomb consists of a passage and chamber, the walls and roof of which are built of large slabs without mortar. A large circular mound or cairn of stones covers the tomb, and a curb of massive slabs laid on their long edges, ends touching, surrounds the base of the cairn and was intended to act as a retaining feature. Excavation showed that white crystal stones and round granite boulders were used to build the revetment above the curb all along the front or south side. Okay, this is getting kind of boring. It's really big, about the size of a house, you know, and it's rounded with all these stones on the end, and then there's other stones like Stonehenge on the out with the swirlies on them. The top is grass, and you can't walk on top of it or anything. It's frowned upon. As I remember, it's like chained off kind of, but they reenact the sun when you go in. You can't take photos inside or anything. So they reenacted though for you, and there's a waiting list to get on the actual day. As you can imagine or might imagine, it was a crematorium. Where does it talk about kings? The tale is told that Cormac MacArt, one of the most famous of the Tara kings, did not wish to be buried at the brew because it was a cemetery of idlers. Oh yeah, this is like pagan times, I think. Way back. Architectural and engineering skill displayed by them, no less than the artistic sensibility demonstrated by the carved stones, bears testimony to the high degree of culture attained by this community, and it is a small wonder that traditional sources attribute the monument to no less a personage than the chief of all the gods, the Dagda Mor. So they contributed to a monument to the person of this, the chief of all gods. Oh, I could, Dagda Mor. I'll spell it out here, maybe if I remember. So if you want to do a more deeper dive into Newgrange, I'm sure it's on the internet. Thank you for staying with me so long. I appreciate it.